I know it was you, Fredo. You broke my heart.
This is a question that Godfather fans have been debating for literally years. Both sides have very valid arguments on whether or not it was the right thing to do. However, we don't believe it is that simple. It's actually far more complicated. And so we will be analyzing this scenario from all angles and points of view, giving you a sharper view of why, how, and what could have happened. After Michael cemented his position as the most powerful Mafia don in the whole country, Michael was now completely entrenched in his position and has become a completely different person than the one he was before avenging his father and leaving to Sicily. However, being at the top made him and his organization a huge target for everyone under him. Michael had been working on an ambitious venture that would propel the Corleone family to the next level. He was working with a man called Hyman Roth, a former enforcer under Vito Corleone. He was a close friend and ally of Mo Green, the creator of the modern Las Vegas. Michael, Roth as well as a few others were entering in an insanely profitable partnership with the Cuban president. However, Roth also had a different agenda. Roth had schemed to avenge his close friend, Mo Green's murder under the hands of Michael. And so, he manipulates Michael's brother Fredo into giving him information, and uses him to make an attempt on Michael's life. After Michael realizes that Roth was behind the assassination attempt, he remembers his father's advice.
He taught me, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
So he decides to make Roth think they still have a good business relationship before killing him. Later on he uncovers that Fredo had been relaying information to Hyman Roth and Johnny Ola behind his back.
You broke my heart.
Fredo at that time was given the extremely important role in the family, the role of underboss, and because of information given to Hyman Roth, an assassination attempt was made on Michael that had almost succeeded. Therefore Fredo was somewhat responsible for that attempt. Also, Michael later discovered how Fredo had both withheld important information from him about Hyman Roth's connection with the committee's lawyer Questad, who actually was present at the New Year's party in Cuba. But Michael uncovered how deeply resentful and jealous Fredo actually was, as he was his older brother, yet he was treated as an errand boy. Also, having Michael as the head of the family means that he has the final say on any business ventures or pretty much anything Fredo wanted to do, adding contempt and resentment towards Michael. However, even if Michael could forgive Fredo, as he was manipulated into it, and even if he gets past the resentment he had for him, the reality of the situation is that Fredo is a huge liability. If Fredo had gone behind his back and struck deals that he knows in some capacity will hurt the family and his own brother, what guarantees that he won't do it again? And it begs the question, was this even the first time? And to be fair, we see Michael constantly giving Fredo warnings and chances, and puts his trust in him to a good extent, and even so, he betrayed the family. Having a very high-ranking member of the Corleone family betray his don deeply hinders their image of power, especially Michael's reputation of being the powerful don he was. Having members of his own family were going behind his back and striking deals with no permission or knowledge of the boss weakens Michael's reputation of intelligence and cunning and brings up old doubts that he was nowhere near the don his father was, especially after having proven himself. Therefore, to ensure his status of power and ensure no one else dares to challenge his position, he believed he had to do the unthinkable. Consequently, it added to his ruthless reputation. Let's look at all this from Michael's perspective. Michael was on top. He was the most powerful don in the whole country, reaching heights that no mob boss had ever dreamed of reaching. However, being on top made him a huge target, and now he was in the public. He had to not only worry about street gangsters and the Mafia, but also greedy individuals who hid as so-called public servants. Having to defend the empire from so many angles, he started developing a sense of paranoia, which in his position doesn't really hurt to have a little bit, as he has to constantly be aware and anticipate any attacks on him and the family. However, after the assassination attempt that he just managed to survive, Knowing that his enemies had somehow infiltrated his very own organization added to that paranoia. In addition, the Senate hearings also took a significant toll on him, as he could face life in prison or worse, spelling the end of the Corleone dynasty. And so, with all those factors in mind, discovering that his very own brother played a part in all this seemed like the final straw. Let's also not forget the countless chances and warnings Michael gave Fredo, never once even thinking of doing him any harm. Michael even advertently and plainly tells him,
"You're my older brother, and I love you. But don't ever take sides with anyone against the family again. Ever."
He even allows him to remain in a very high position in the family even though he has constantly proven that he was very incompetent. Still, he gives tasks that he knows he can handle so that he does not endanger anyone else's lives or even his own self. What seemed to have really made Michael make that fateful decision was the fact that even if Fredo had been used by Roth to get to Mike, upon realizing he had been used, Fredo didn't come clean to Michael about the whole situation. Rather, he knew who was after Michael and the family, and did absolutely nothing. If he had come clean, Michael would have been disappointed in his brother, but absolutely nowhere near feel as betrayed as what Fredo ended up doing. Even with all this, Michael gave Fredo a final chance when he told him,
"Come with me! You're still my brother, Fredo!"
cementing the idea he still had some affinity and empathy towards Fredo. However, Fredo failed at his only chance to redeem himself. There is no shying away from the fact that Fredo was absolutely in the wrong. His miscalculation and his incompetence almost led to the destruction of the whole Corleone empire. But let's look at it from his perspective. Fredo really didn't have any ill intentions towards Michael. Yes, he knew he would be working in favor of people outside the family, and was a bit mad at Michael, but he was just gullible, as he was manipulated into thinking he was just trying to help them with a simple business negotiation.
You believe that story? You believe that?
He was promised that they would help him with some business ventures that Michael had rejected, so he thought it was a way he actually could have something of his own by expanding outside the constraints Michael had placed. Also, saw this as an opportunity to dispel his reputation as a failure and not be in his younger brother's shadow. Throughout his entire life, Fredo felt that he was always treated without any respect, being known as someone very weak and incompetent, especially compared to his father and siblings.
Fredo, he's got a good heart, but he's weak, and he's stupid, and this is life and death.
Now, Mama used to tease me. She'd say, you don't belong to me. You were left on the doorstep by gypsies. Sometimes I think it's true.
You're no gypsy.
Even though they did have a point, Fredo constantly wanted to prove them wrong and really wanted their validation, which pushed him more into being desperate and finding ways to break out of the persona he was given. Even though he was given the title of underboss, Fredo was given little real power and the title was mostly ceremonial. It was probably the smart move on Michael's part, but Fredo was not blind to this and added to his growing resentment and jealousy. Hyman Roth and his associates knew all this, and so played it perfectly, skillfully manipulating the desperate Fredo into assisting them in aiming to destroy the Corleone family empire. And the facts are that Fredo genuinely didn't know how treacherous they really were and how sinister their plans really were. If he had known, he definitely wouldn't have worked with them, no matter how much jealousy and contempt he felt towards Michael, as they still had a decent relationship. Out of all the events in the Godfather trilogy, Fredo's betrayal is probably one of, if not the most tragic. But now that we can see both perspectives and viewpoints, the question is, was it the right move to make from both a strategic standpoint as well as a psychological and philosophical point of view? So simply put, did Michael make a catastrophic mistake? Or was it his only option?